What's going on, everyone? So, the Knicks and Timberwolves trade is officially finalized. It was something that they put off. We're still kind of working on some of the details, which there have been some updates as far as the full details of the trade go in order for it to be pulled off. And here is the full details. So, the Knicks get Karl-Anthony Towns and draft rights of James Nagy. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves get Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, Keita Bates-Diop, and a 2025 first-round pick. Hornets get a 2025 second-round pick, 2026 second-round pick, Daquan Jeffries, Charlie Brown Jr., Darius Washington, and $7.2 million in cash. So that's the full details and the finalization of the trade. It was really funny for media day watching the Knicks try to tiptoe around it. I mean, some of the players kind of acknowledged it, kind of didn't, right? Like, like Jalen Brunson was like, who's Karl-Anthony Towns or who's Karl or whatever. Tibbs basically was just like, nice try, right? Like, because that's the problem, because the deal hadn't been finalized, hadn't actually gone through. It put the Knicks and the Timberwolves in just a tough spot as far as media day goes. Because, of course, everyone wants to ask their opinions and thoughts on the trade and how, Cat will impact the Knicks and how, Julius Randle will impact the Timberwolves. And nobody could really talk about it because it wasn't finished, because it wasn't done. But it was kind of funny seeing just kind of everyone try to tiptoe around it and try not to get fined, right? But again, look, the Knicks, they're all in. It's championship or bust for them. I've seen a lot of people talk about, how will the Knicks fare right away, right? Most teams, you look at star teams, they don't just immediately win, but it's usually when they're incorporating multiple stars, right? Think of Miami, right? Think of the Lakers with Gary Payton, Karl Malone. But both those teams made it to the finals. It's just they ended up losing. Lakers, a lot of that was due to injuries. There's still a lot of questions of if Karl Malone in particular was healthier going into that finals. How would that shape up? Miami, right? They just seemed clunky, right, at times, especially during the playoffs. And then Dallas was just that veteran, experienced team that had the understandings of what it took to win, and they just really gave it to them. But you look at teams like the Boston Celtics. They didn't integrate a bunch of stars. They integrated role players. Blue chip, high, top of the top tier role players, rotation guys, starting level guys. It's what the Knicks are doing, right? Mikal Bridges isn't a superstar. He's not a top 10, 15 player in the league. And he's comfortable being a fourth option, being a third option, whatever you need him to be, as he was that with the Phoenix Suns. Karl-Anthony Towns, right? He is, yes, he's considered a star by many, but he's not, top 20 player in the NBA, right? And he's going to play the role that is actually what the Knicks need in a lot of ways. Same thing with OG. OG is not some top tier star. He's just a high end rotation starting level guy. And you also look at the main core outside of two guys are already together, right? They already spent last year together and have that built-in chemistry. And it's kind of funny. You look at the parallels between the Knicks and the Celtics, where the Celtics brought in Drew Holiday and then brought in Kristaps Porzingis. And the Knicks are bringing in Mikal Bridges and bringing in Karl-Anthony Towns. I just think that those parallels are pretty interesting. But I think the Knicks will be fine right out the gate. Could there be a little bit of a learning curve? Sure, of course. But I think for the most part, the Knicks are going to be really good. Health is probably the biggest concern with them, right? Cat hasn't been this model of health the last few years. OG hasn't been this model of health the last few years. But if they can stay healthy, they're going to win a lot of games. They're going to be a very good basketball team. They're just going to be a team that you don't want to run into. You don't want to see in the playoffs, right? It really is just kind of, the Knicks, the Celtics, and then we'll see what happens with the Philadelphia 76ers, right? How does Paul George kind of fit in with that core group because they have the potential to be very good as well. And then, the Bucks, I know some people, I think the Bucks are kind of in that second tier category. I think the Knicks and the Celtics are, kind of the tier one. And then I think Philly is probably at worst tier two, maybe could potentially be in that tier one. And then I think, teams like the Cavs, the Magic, the Bucks, like those teams, I think are all kind of clumped together in like a tier three. Like, could they, one of them make the conference finals? Could one of them, maybe sneak into the NBA finals? Possibly. But, I think it would take quite a bit to happen to the Knicks and the Celtics for any of those teams to really make it out of the Eastern Conference. It's my opinion. Please let me know yours down in the comments. But looking at Minnesota, because Minnesota is also part of this trade, looking at the Timberwolves, they are kind of a big question mark in my opinion. I personally don't really like the move for the Timberwolves. I get the long-term idea of like, hey, clear off some salary, right? We're in it the long haul for Anthony Edwards, but I just think unless Julius Randle can kind of get to that form he was a couple seasons ago where he was shooting 40% from three, I just think McDaniels, Randle, and Rudy Gobert just make things very difficult for Anthony Edwards, right? I mean, the floor spacing is going to be very questionable. Now, there is more to floor spacing than just shooting threes, but still, it's you want to have a couple guys out there that are capable of doing that, right? McDaniels, he can knock it down, but he's not this major threat from 3-point range. Julius Randle, I mean, he's 34% from three, right? Like, that's not great. And then Rudy Gobert, like, teams are just, especially come playoff time. Could they be really good in the regular season? Sure, just because they are talented and they do have a lot of depth. But once you get to the playoffs, I think they're just going to be very easy to defend. I think you just pack the paint. You live with Julius Randle shooting threes, right? You put Rudy Gobert in a bunch of pick and roll actions and basically play him off the floor. I think you just kind of glue your best defender, Anthony Edwards, and just kind of keep some space so he can't drive to the basket because it's too packed. And I think Minnesota is going to be a team that is really going to have some struggles, particularly in the playoffs. I think regular season they'll be okay. I think regular season, again, they have talent. But again, it also depends on which Julius Randle they get. If they get a Julius Randle that is able to kind of be that Swiss Army knife and be that, 28-8 guy, or 24-8 guy, he does do some things better than Karl Anthony Towns. Definitely provides a level of physicality, and he is a guy that will give you the same kind of level of rebounding. He's better at making plays and creating for himself as well as others. Right? Like, there are definitely some pros to Julius Randle, but there's also some cons. And you have a guy in Anthony Edwards who's probably the best rim pressure guard, maybe best rim pressure player, period, in the NBA right now. And you basically brought in a bunch of guys that kind of neutralize him in a lot of ways. Not really a great position to put, your star player in. Now, again, things change, and maybe he can adapt, and maybe Julius Randle has a good year shooting the basketball, and they're able to work it out. It's always a possibility, but I wouldn't be shocked if they ultimately end up having to trade Julius Randle and then maybe starting Naz Reid at some point just to kind of give you that floor spacing, give you kind of that same physicality. Right? But I don't know. I think that more likely than not, Minnesota got worse. Again, I've been wrong before. It's very possible I'm wrong again. I know a lot of Minnesota fans are defending the acquisition and defending the move and talking about how, it made them better. I don't really see it. I think if anything, it's kind of a neutral move, which, might not be bad, but you were just in the conference finals. Like, why go and make such a big splash unless it's for, like, if you were doing it for Giannis or something where it's just like, man, like, you can't really pass that up, then sure, I would get it. But, you know, you traded Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle. It feels more of like this is a future move than rather a move that helps right now. But again, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that, like, they're going to be better? Do you think they're going to be kind of on par? They're going to be just as good? Think that they're going to be worse? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.